Let me start you off with Alabama before we get into the committee's decision. When they lost to Texas, I thought for sure they would have one more loss in the season and they would be out of the Final Four conversation. Just how about the job Nick Saban has done this year with Jalen Milroe and the rest of his team?
I think fantastic job. I think one of the things you looked is they lost to Texas. They were struggling early in the season. Went down to South Florida, benched Jalen Milroe, and I think he sat Tommy Rees. They had a meeting. I don't want to say sat him down. They called in a meeting. They sat down and said, "Listen, I understand, Tommy, the scheme you're bringing in, different things you're trying to do, but as a younger coach, and Nick knows this as a veteran coach, the scheme needs to be built around the strengths of the players. So we need to really focus on what we're doing. Let's rebuild the offense around the strength of the players." And from that day forward, you've seen sacks decrease drastically. You've seen Jalen Milroe have a lot more success running the offense. You've seen receivers start to grow and emerge on the offensive side of the ball. We knew this year they'd have a great defense. We saw them. They have a great defense, done a great job. And I think this is a team that Nick likes to coach. I mean, we go back to Nick's early success. They played defense. They ran the ball. They were physical, and they won lower scoring games, not like close games, but lower scoring games. Over the last couple of years, they've just been a highlight reel of offensive talent. So I don't think Nick was out of his comfort zone in coaching this team.
Now, get into the Pac-12 championship game. Everyone thought Oregon was going to win, it seemed like, and they were going to win going away. Washington already beat Oregon back a few weeks ago. Just how about what Kalen DeBoer did? Because it seemed like, not that you need extra motivation before the Pac-12 championship game, but that team had it with everyone disrespecting them.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, as everybody says, Oregon was the best team, right? We keep using the best team right now. There's a lot of best teams thrown out around, right? So Oregon was the best team. However, subjectively, Oregon was the best team. When you got on the field, Washington said, "Hey, twice you had the opportunity. Twice we beat you. We beat you at home. Then you got the opportunity on a neutral site field." I think Washington's done that all year. They've had a lot of close games. People look and say, "Well, boy, you've been in this tight game, that tight game." With teams, maybe you should beat by more if you're supposed to be this great team. However, they did what I love about Washington. They win. And you've seen it. No matter, sometimes they win by scoring and scoring a lot of points, throwing the football all over the place. Sometimes they win with defense. Sometimes they win running the football. They've won a lot of different ways this year, and that's the sign of a great, not just great coaching, great program, great team.
Dan Mullen here with us. All righty, let's get to the big decision yesterday. I know you've been reacting for it to the last 24 hours, but when it came down that Florida State was left out and Alabama gets in, you said?
I think it's disrespectful to the game of football. And it's disrespectful, not to the fans, not to people that play the game. I certainly hope people that play understand what I'm saying when you say it's disrespectful to the game. Florida State went out, played every single week, and they won. And they won with their quarterback. They won without their quarterback. They won with offense. They won with defense. They won big. They won coming back. They won in overtime. They won on Saturday against one of the with a third-string true freshman quarterback that hadn't played, and they were playing one of the best rush defenses in America. They rushed for almost 170 yards in that game. All that Louisville had to do was just score one touchdown, the game's over. Couldn't do it. In fact, not only could they not score, they had negative 23 yards of offense in the fourth quarter. That's Jeff Brom, a Jeff Brom team. And everyone knows what a great coach he is. And they were held to negative 23 yards. They blocked a punt and got the ball inside the 10-yard line, couldn't score. That was as masterful a defensive performance as you will ever see of a team back to the wall performing. And I think it was disrespectful to the game of football that they got left out. And Alabama, there were 5 teams that earned the right to play. I don't like everyone says the best team. Well, we made clear that Oregon was the best team. Georgia was the best team, but they lost. So subjectively, they were the best. Objectively, they lost. So to sit there and take a team that did everything right, I think that was wrong. And
what would you have done? Just wondering. Like, you were in charge of the committee. Who would have your 4 teams been?
Oh, I would have had Michigan 1, Washington 2. I would have had Florida State 3 and that would have been my easy 1, 2, 3. And then as you're comparing my 4 discussion, there'd be 4 teams you're comparing for the 4 spot, which would have been Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas. Well, I'm going to eliminate Ohio State because they didn't play in a conference championship game. So I'm down to 3. Well, Alabama beat Georgia and Texas beat Alabama. So I end up with Texas. And listen, Georgia has a right to complain that they should be in the playoffs. Alabama certainly earned the right to be in the playoffs, even more so than Georgia. Alabama earned the right. So this is not a knock against Alabama. I just think that Florida State should have been in. And if you look at it that way and say, anybody that's ever played the game, it is so hard to go undefeated. So hard in any level. I won a high school state championship. We weren't undefeated. I won 2 national championships as a coach. We weren't undefeated in either of those. It is so hard to go undefeated. And those guys did everything. And when you were comparing the teams, you can make different arguments. Strength of schedule, strength of ranked opponents, who'd you play, when'd you play them, the one thing you couldn't compare was the losses. And Mike Norvell had it said great that, hey, there are 5 teams earned the right to get into the playoffs, but there were 2 of them earned losses as well. They earned those losses. They lost the games. They had the opportunity to win, and they earned a loss. His team never earned a loss. His team found a way to win. And in the end, it's not figure skating where the East German committee member, right? The East German committee member must have stood up and get like, I'm rating Florida State 20th. And because of that rating, we're gonna drop them down. So I think that's what it was. And unfortunately, and honestly, I look at it. I can justify trust me, again, Alabama earned the right to go to the playoffs. I could justify them being left out. I can justify that. They lost. They have 1 loss. They lost to Texas by double digits at home. So I can justify Texas being ahead of them. I don't see the justification for Florida State being out. Their quarterback was hurt, and they put on one of the most masterful defensive performances you'd ever seen. Okay, I mean the object is to win the game. As a coach, I've gone into games. I'll take it. I was coaching Mississippi State. We went into the swamp. We ran the ball 42 consecutive plays. That's the only way we lose the game is if their defense scores. We won 10-7. It wasn't pretty, but it was a win. The object is to win. And the committee disrespected that.
Just wondering, really Dan, they go to 12 next year, so these conversations will be like, 11 or 12. I've never been a fan of going to 12. 6 or 8 I could live with. Where do you fall in college football playoff expansion?
I think the whole thing's a mess. We could be here for the next week talking about it. I think I mean they've kind of gone to the Big 2 conference now, but then the playoffs don't always align with that because the champions conference champions get byes. We've heard, all these great rivalries in college football and things that make them special. I think there's I'm with you. I'd love to, in my quick response, and in the offseason, I might get into it really in depth, but I'll give you a quick one. I think we should have a commissioner of college football. I think you should go to 8 team conferences. You pull out college football of those 8 team conferences to all the networks, let them bid on which one of those ones that they won and buy the money. Will all equal revenue share it. And then there's revenue sharing with a salary cap for the players in there. So everybody's on equal footing. The 8 winners, you don't need a conference championship game weekend. You win, 8 division winners make the playoffs, 4 wild cards, and the bottom 8 play. Then we take the teams that are right now on the lower side of it, and we're going to drop them into another 8 team bracket. The winners of that can play for their kind of, if we want to call it kind of like there's the Premier League and there's the championship. Let's go English soccer on it right now. And there's a relegation game. The second week of December is the relegation game between the last place and the first place team in the different divisions. And so if you finish, for example, like just throw an SEC West team out there, Arkansas, if they finish last in the West right now, they're playing Troy to go down to what essentially would be a Sun Belt, and Troy's playing to come up into the SEC. I think that'd be a pretty exciting little deal of some things that we could do or change football and make it fair, or make it even. I think we've kind of let it get a little out of control, and there's no perfect answer for how it's currently set up.
He's Coach Dan Mullen doing a great job for ESPN and ABC. Coach, appreciate the time as always. Thanks for doing this.
Always great to be. Hey, you know what? You know who won though? College football. Because I will say this: the matchups that we have, and not just the 4 playoff matchups, but the bowl games as a whole. There are some unbelievable matchups coming up over the next month, and I can't wait to see them play. I hope we don't have a lot of opt-outs or kids to start transferring, not playing and doing this, because there are some unbelievable matchups out there. You know, I mean, Missouri, Ohio State, Penn State, the Ole Miss game. I mean, there's some great ones. The playoff game, Florida State, Alabama could be a great game. I'm sorry, Florida State, Georgia.
Yeah.
Florida State, Georgia, great game. There's so many really good ones out there. I mean, you go. I'm fortunate enough. You know, I mean, we're getting to call some good ones coming up. There's some great bowl games going to be played in the next month, and so college football still wins. They did a great job with that, but you know, I wish it would have just turned out a little bit more objectively instead of subjectively.